Hi guys, Johnny Wilson here in association with Premier Injuries and Ben Dinnery. Going to talk about the Ryan Fraser situation that occurred at the weekend. So Ryan played for Scotland against Belgium in a friendly during the week and was released from the squad with a hamstring related problem. On Friday morning, Eddie Howe had said that he wasn't quite sure how Ryan was doing, said that he'd been with the physios all week and that he had a hamstring problem. So that's the one of the major things to realise here is that Eddie actually said it was a problem and not a hamstring strain or an injury. So that can lead to can mean a lot of things. So at the weekend then, for all those guys who play fantasy football and might have ruled Ryan out with a hamstring strain. Well, he actually started against Leicester, played for 90 minutes, scored 2 goals, got an assist, and was man of the match. Probably had his best game of the season. So, and it not bad for a guy who had a hamstring problem during the week. A little bit about Ryan. He's 24. He's 5'5" in height. He's very fast. 70 kg in weight. Scottish international. Has been with Bournemouth since they were in League One under the tutelage of Eddie Howe. Played 5 games in the Premier League so far. 1 game in the League Cup. Scored 3 goals and 2 assists. So he's had a really good start. So again, just to labour on that point, Eddie Howe actually said it was a hamstring problem, and not a hamstring injury. So this would suggest that there were other factors at play. So, and also if you look at the mechanism of injury, so how it occurred for the Scottish game, he actually played the full 90 minutes, which would indicate that maybe it wasn't a severe issue. And there was no real clear inciting event that would cause the injury. So it wasn't from high speed running in particular, or from stretching, or from kicking in particular. So the likelihood is that Ryan's presented after the game, or maybe after in 24 hours later, and said, look, do you know what, my hamstring isn't quite right. I've had some hamstring issues in the past, 4 in particular, and one of those was kept me out of the game for 12 weeks. So with that in mind, the likelihood again here is that both the Scottish medical team and the Bournemouth medical team, who would always be player-led, made the decision to investigate the injury further and not to take any unnecessary chances. So in professional football, MRIs are commonplace. It's more like industrial scanning, really. So it's an expectation of the players, of the stakeholders, of the coaches, and so on and so forth, that players would have a scan. And to be fair, it's the right decision when there's so much money at stake, and and there's a lot of high pressure, and for completeness, it certainly probably is the right decision to make here. So if he did have an MRI scan, the scans can sometimes come back what is known as MRI negative. So on the scan you won't see any structural damage, so you won't actually see any tear within the soft tissues at the back of the hamstring. But it's important to note that that doesn't mean that the hamstring is completely clear, because he might have some neural issues or some other issues in the hamstring that didn't present on the scanning. So scanning isn't your gold standard, and we can't always rely on the scan. So we need to look at the whole picture, look at the player, look at his past history, look at the mechanism of injury, and so on and so forth before making a decision like that. So his function, so is he walking normally again? Is he able to run pain-free, and so on and so forth? Now, Ryan is lucky to work with a very experienced medical team and coaching staff at Bournemouth, so they know how to manage the player rather than, as an individual, rather than looking at this as just another hamstring statistic. So that's where the benefit of having such good guys around you. So you've got the likes of Steve Hard, who's been there for since 2006. Johnny King, who's also worked in Aspetar. You've got Craig Roberts, who's the doc down there, and he worked for the Springboks for 8 years, so headed up the medical team there. And then you've got people like Dan Hodges and Ben Donachie, who are very well respected clinicians in the fields of sports science and strength and conditioning. So it's very usual for a risk assessment to take place before making a return to play decision. Now, risk assessments are where you look at the risk factors which might lead to a future hamstring injury. So, for example, if he has had a previous hamstring injury, or if he's played a lot of games, or if he's not feeling so well, and so on and so forth. So these are all risk factors: a change in playing surface, etc., etc. So Ryan, as we said, he's had 4 hamstring injuries in the past, and one of those was quite significant. So in February 2012, he had a hamstring strain or injury which kept him out for around 12 weeks. So hamstring injuries, they're common, very common in football. They can, sometimes players miss one game, sometimes players miss no game, sometimes players will miss an average of 21 days, maybe 3 to 4 games. But just because somebody presents with a hamstring symptoms, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've got any structural damage, so it might be from other causes. So to sum up neatly here, rather than saying Ryan had a hamstring strain or injury, Eddie Howe had said it was a problem. Ryan is very lucky to work with 2 amazing sports medicine teams, both in Scotland and Bournemouth. There's no crystal ball really when it comes to predicting injuries. Some guys can complete a full rehabilitation, have better strength markers, better running markers than before they got injured, and still get injured, okay? And other guys might not have hit all those markers and not get injured at all. Injuries are multifactorial, they're complex, and we're not quite sure as to why they occur and why they don't occur. And return to play decisions, they're always player-led. So there's always a risk assessment, and it's when the player, the coaches, and the medical staff, they're happy with the risk associated with re-injury, because there's always a risk there. But really, the ultimate decision maker here is always the player. So hope you enjoyed this, guys, and look forward to chatting to you again. Cheers. Bye-bye.